Hi there, thanks for joining us here for another video from Howard Piano Industries. I'm Steve Howard, and our exciting video today is going to be demonstrating, talking about different piano tuning lever heads and tips. We'll have questions about heads and tips of tuning levers and the different options that are available. So we're going to talk about those today and what kind of different options they are and what the different parts mean. This is a piano tuning hammer. This is our professional tuning hammer with a nylon handle. And here we've got the head and the tip, and we'll show you what these different parts are. Now I'm going to start by demonstrating with a head and a tip. Okay, now those are two different parts to the tuning lever. Okay, the tuning lever itself has the handle, which is you've got a shank and usually a handle like this. So this is the lever, and then on here this is the working part, I guess, if you might call it. Right at the top of the lever is what's called the head. Okay, and this head screws on to the handle. Okay, so you can see the handle's got threads at the top that the head can screw onto. So the head's got threads in the inside that will screw onto the end of the handle and tighten on that way. So that's the head part, and then at the end over here is what's called the tip. Okay, and the tip on this one is the head and the tip are two separate pieces, and you can get this is called a two-piece head and tip. You can get a one-piece head and tip, which we'll show you in a moment, which is another variation. But here we've got the head. The head has threads on the end when it's a two-piece head and tip, and that's so you can screw the tip onto the end of it. Okay, now the heads come in different angles. So here we've got the head, and that this one's a 5-degree head, so it's the closest to a right angle. We've also got 10 and 15-degree angle heads, and we'll show you in a moment the difference of what that is and how that affects the position of the hammer on the tuning pins. Okay, so we'll screw on the head. The tip will screw onto the head. The tip comes in different sizes. We've got number 1 tip, number 2 tip, and number 3 tip. This happens to be a number 2 tip because it's got the 2 rings around it, as you might be able to see there in the video. Number 2 tip is going to be your most common tip. It's going to fit tuning pins of almost all pianos. We do have a number 1 tip, which has a little bit of a smaller opening, and that's for tuning pins that are a little bit smaller. And then the number 3 tip has a little bit larger opening, which fits larger tuning pins. But basically the number 2 tip will fit vast majority of pianos. I actually use the same head and tip for every piano that I ever tune. I don't ever change it, and it works. Some tuning pins there it's a little bit looser on than others, but I can always get the job done with my number 2 tip. And the 5-degree head angle for me works fairly well. So that's a 2-piece head and tip. Now remember, if you've got if you do get the 2-piece head and tip, you're also going to need a tip wrench in order to loosen and tighten the tip onto the head, because if you don't have a wrench to tighten it, it could be that you won't be able to get it tight enough for the tip to stay tightened onto the head when you go to tune a piano. So that's a 2-piece head and tip. We also have, and I'll show you here, 1-piece head and tip, and I'll show you the difference with that. Yep, that's 5 degrees. So what this is a 1-piece head and tip, which means the head and the tip are all one piece. Okay, this is all one machined piece. There's no separation in it, and the only difference with this is that if you want to have several different options of be able to change out different tip sizes and head angles and all that, we've got different options for the tips that you can't you don't have quite as much variation availability with a one-piece head and tip. So if you're going to do a lot of changing of the heads and tips and different combinations, then the one-piece head and tip may not be the best thing. But I would say for most people, you know, the one-piece head and tip is going to be just sufficient. You know, because in a lot of cases you're going to pretty much use the same head and tip for most or all of the pianos that you tune, and then, of course, that varies from one person to another, but that's going to be the case for a lot of them. So you can see this has the one-piece head and tip that comes standard with all of our professional tuning hammers. But of course there are other options available. So we've got that, and the other thing I want to mention, besides the head and tip, you know, is now this, what I showed you, this one and the one-piece head and tip, these are 2.5 inches long, okay, which is the standard. We do have one head and tip that's a lot shorter. I think we got a 1.5 inch. And you say, well, what's the difference? Well, the shorter the head and tip, the more control you're going to get, because you're going to have less flex. Okay, when you've got the longer that it is, like if we take a look at this one, that's going to be a lot longer. I think this one's 5 inches long rather than the standard 2.5 inches. So you get you're going to have more twisting and torquing in the tool itself, which equates to less control on the tuning pins. So, but the one thing that people will buy these longer tips for is when they go to tune the high treble section of a grand piano. Now, I do want to mention that when people ask me about this, my standard answer is that if you're looking for a longer head and tip to be able to clear the side of the case on a grand piano, that's actually not the correct position for your tuning hammer. Okay, and I say correct, but that's of course my own opinion from what I've learned, because I know a lot of piano tuners and technicians will tune with their tuning lever off to the side of the piano like this, and they'll tune the whole piano that way. If you watched our video on the bending and twisting of tuning pins, we talked about the most efficient position for your tuning hammer is where the handle is close to the line or the plane of the string. So when you're tuning this high treble section up here, it really is better to have the handle of your tuning hammer go toward the back of the piano, because you're going to have less bending and twisting of that tuning pin. So you're going to have better control over when you go to tune or turn the tuning pin. So that's that's my take on it, opinion. But if you do want to be able to clear the side, or you've got some pianos that the plate struts are a little bit higher, so maybe the 2.5 inch length tool, if you put it on here, it might not quite clear the plate strut. Okay, it does on this one, at least with this tuning hammer, but in some pianos it may not, so you may want either a longer tuning lever. One other thing that I wanted to mention is, and this would be another option for that type of situation, is having a different angle of head. Okay, and I was going to show you the difference with the different angles of heads. So I'm going to put, this is our wood handle extension tuning hammer, in case you're wondering. But I'm going to put a 15-degree head onto this tuning hammer, and you might be able to see the difference. Okay, and then I'll put the 5-degree head. Yep, there's the 5-degree head. We'll put that on this other tuning hammer so you can see the difference. Okay, so if we've got you can see that that's pretty close to a right angle. The hammer has a slight rise. Okay, it's a 5-degree rise. Okay, whereas with the 15-degree head, you can see there's a noticeable more of a rise to the handle. Okay, and that's because the angle of this head to the handle is 15-degree rather than the 5-degree. We do have a 10-degree head as well, but then that's going to be kind of between the two. So here again we've got a 5-degree head, yeah, close to a right angle, and then the 15-degree head, which makes it raise up a little bit more. And when you go to put it on the tuning pin, it is going to raise the handle up more, so it'll give you more clearance there. You know, it's still not going to be enough for when you're in this high treble section to raise it up. You know, still can't get that down on there, but that's the other difference. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you, the different head and tip options are available on all of our professional level tuning hammers. This is our basic tuning hammer, comes with our piano tuning hammer and mute kit, and we've got it available separately as well, and it's available in our regular, just what's called piano tuning kit. That's just our basic kit. And so this is our more basic hammer. This does not have an exchangeable head and tip. So as you can see, the tip it's welded onto the handle, so it's not removable. The head is actually just a bend in the shank here of the shaft of the tuning hammer. So you won't be able to change to a different head or tip with this one. And for the vast majority of pianos, it's not going to be an issue. This tuning hammer will work because it does have the number 2 tip. Same machined tip. This tuning hammer is made by the same company that makes the other tuning hammers that we sell, so it's good quality. It's just doesn't have that option, and it probably has a little more flex in the handle than some of the extension hammers and the tuning professional hammer with the nylon handles. So that's the case with this one. It does not have a removable head and tip, so you wouldn't have the option of moving that and removing that. So, but that's what we have to show you today about our piano tuning hammer and piano tuning hammer heads and tips. You can get any of these tools on our website at howardpianoindustries.com, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. All right, thanks, and have a great day.